think you give me another pair of cards. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotra Shatashishima. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotra Shatashishima. His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sekaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopagopinath Shamakund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Yamunamai Ki Jai. Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Alright, anyways. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, entitled The Creative Impetus, Chapter 6, The Activities of Lord Rishabhadev. We're on text 5. So if everybody could please repeat after me. Kamo, Manyor, Mado, Lobaha, Shoka, Moha, Payadayaha, Karma, Bandash, Cha, Yan, Mulaha, Swikurat, Ko, Nu, Tad, Buddha, Kamo manyor mado labha. Oba. Shoka moha bayadayaha. Karma bandascha yanmulaha. Swikurat konu tadbudaha. Kamanor mado kama manyor mado lobha. Shokamoha bayadayaha. Karma bandascha yanmula. Swikurat konu tadbudaha. Kama manyor mado lobha. Shokamoha bayadayaha. Karma bandascha yanmula. Swikuryat konu tadbudaha. Kamaha, lust. Manyuhu, anger. Madaha, pride. Lobaha, greed. Shoka, lamentation. Moha, illusion. Bhaya, fear. Adayaha, all these together. Karma bandhaha, bondage to fruitive activities. Cha, and yat, mulaha, the origin of which swikurat, would accept. Kaha, who, nu, indeed. Tat, that mind. Buddhaha, if one is learned. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, HG Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The mind is the root cause of lust, anger, pride, greed, lamentation, illusion, and fear. Combined, these constitute bondage to fruitive activity. What learned man would put faith in the mind? Purport. The mind is the original cause of material bondage. It is followed by many enemies, such as anger, pride, greed, lamentation, illusion, and fear. The best way to control the mind is to engage it always in Krishna consciousness, savai manaḥ kṛṣṇa-padāravindayoḥ. Since the followers of the mind bring about material bondage, we should be very careful not to trust the mind. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karivachalam Bhangam Langate Gadim Yakripatamaham Vande Shri Gurundiditaram Vancha Kapadubhishcha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Bhavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I'll just read the previous verses as well, because Shukadeva Goswami is answering a question, and they all go together. So this is starting with text 1. We read 5 today. So, King Parikshit asked Shukadeva Goswami, "My dear Lord, for those who are completely pure in heart, knowledge is attained by the practice of bhakti yoga, and attachment for fruitive activity is completely burned to ashes. For such people, the powers of mystic yoga automatically arise. They do not cause distress. Why then did Rishabhadev neglect them? Srila Shukadeva Goswami replied, "My dear king, you have spoken correctly. However, after capturing animals, a cunning hunter does not put faith in them, for they might run away. Similarly, those who are advanced in spiritual life do not put faith in the mind. Indeed, they always remain vigilant and watch the mind's action. All the learned scholars have given their opinion. The mind is by nature very restless, and one should not make friends with it. If we place full confidence in the mind, it may cheat us at any moment. Even Lord Shiva became agitated upon seeing the Mohini form of Lord Krishna, and Sabara Muni also fell down from the mature stage of yogic perfection. An unchaste woman is very easily carried away by paramours, and it sometimes happens that her husband is violently killed by her paramours. If the yogi gives his mind a chance, it does not restrain it. His mind will give facility to enemies like lust, anger, and greed, and they will doubtlessly kill the yogi. Aloha. I'm saying that because his hat says aloha. The mind is the root cause of lust, anger, pride, greed, lamentation, illusion, and fear. Today's verse. Combined, these constitute bondage to fruitive activity. What learned man would put faith in the mind? So all of these teachings here are Shukadeva Goswami answering the question, and it is giving us a glimpse, giving us an idea about the nature of our minds, the nature of the living entities' minds in the material world. And this is the materially conditioned mind, right? What we're talking about. And as in the last verse 4 that was spoke on yesterday, discussed yesterday, an unchaste woman is very easily carried away. Yesterday. An unchaste woman is very easily carried away by paramours, and it sometimes happens that her husband is violently killed by her paramours. If the yogi gives his mind a chance and does not restrain it, his mind will give facilities to enemy like lust, anger, and greed, and they will doubtlessly kill the yogi. So I remember just next door here, where this hair salon is now. I forgot what business it was, but there was another business there. It was a dive shop, and removing your tattoos. Oh, there's many. Ultimate fighting. Yeah, there was that. There was it there. Sure. So, one of the last ones, there was this guy there, and he was a young, kind of passionate guy, full of a lot of energy, and anyways, he was strong and muscular and all that, and he started to. I heard about this later because you understand why I heard about it once I tell you what happened. But he started dating some woman here in San Diego, and then she recently split up with another guy, right? So they were dating and they're having a good time, whatever. Then they're at the local gym very important place, right? It's like a church nowadays, right? People go to church. I mean, of course, it's whatever to keep healthy and all that, but people kind of exaggerate it. Take it like it's a religion or something, but anyways, they're there, and they were together. They're walking out, and then this woman's previous husband, or maybe present husband, whatever. He comes, and he just shoots the guy dead. Right here, the guy that was just right here. And right here in San Diego, at walking out some 24-hour fitness. And then I found out because on the store here there was a poster. It said, "We're sorry, so and so," and it explained a little bit. And I asked the person who was working there what happened, and she told me. So similarly, it's saying here that an unchaste woman is very easily carried away by paramours. It sometimes happens that her husband is violently killed by her paramours. So anyway, and if the yogi gives his mind a chance and does not restrain it, his mind will give facilities to enemies like lust, anger, and greed, and they will doubtlessly kill the yogi. So if we give ourselves or give our minds some wiggle room, or as was mentioned yesterday, they have that saying, right? You give someone an inch, they take a mile. So you give Maya an inch, she takes a mile. So if we give our minds space to do its material thing, then this will happen. Lust, anger, greed. It creates like in other words, we open the door to all of that, and we allow all that to come in. Or you could say, or however you want to, we allow ourselves to fall into that state. And then Shukadeva Goswami says here that if the yogi gives his mind a chance and does not restrain it, his mind will give facilities to enemies like lust, anger, and greed, and they will doubtlessly kill the yogi. So in other words, lust, anger, and greed, yes, they'll kill the yogi. Means that it may take a very long time for the yogi to regain his or her spiritual standing again. Just like a jamil. It was mentioned yesterday, a jamil, a perfect example of this principle. Again, he was going out to serve his guru. I mean, he wasn't going out to do anything else. I mean, he was going out to serve his guru by collecting firewood and so on. So, and while he was doing that, he saw a man and woman embracing. And he became completely bewildered by that. Lust awakened in his heart. And although going home, and although not before this particular woman, she remained in his mind. He couldn't get her out of her mind. Just like the two stories of those sannyasis or whatever, right there, walking and they about to cross a river, and then there's a woman there, and she goes, "Oh, can you help me cross?" The sannyasi says, "Yeah, sure, just hop on my back." One of them says that. So the woman hops on the sannyasi's back. Another two sannyasis, they're crossing the river, and then they get to the other side, and then he puts her down, and then the two sannyasis keep on walking, right? And then one of them's really mad, the one that saw that the sannyasi was carrying her. He was really upset. He was fuming. And then eventually it came out, and he was saying, he said, I can't believe you did that. You know, we're on the sannyas order. We're sannyasi. You can't do that. You can't put a woman on your back like that, and that's breaking the principles. What's wrong with you? And really angry. And then the sannyasi who carried the woman on his back said, I carried her for just a few minutes, like 2-3 minutes. He said, you've been carrying her for the last 45 minutes. Carrying her in the mind. So Jamil just couldn't get this woman out of his mind. Like there's this one devotee, a Sankirtan devotee. I remember we went on a book distribution, and he's chanting his round on coming home. He was chanting his rounds like very, like kind of intensely, like kind of loud, and Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. And we go, hey, what's going on, Prabhu? You know, you're chanting very enthusiastically. He said, yeah, you know, I saw something on Sankirtan. I'm trying to get it out of my mind. But in a Jamil's case, he just couldn't get her out of his mind, and his lust burning in his heart just pushed him to somehow or other go find that woman, and he found her. And he married her, and then for many, many years, practically his whole life, he was living as a sense enjoyer, as a Grihamedi. Completely forgot about Lord Narayan and all of his Brahminical. He was living a Brahminical life, a non-Brahminical life. Completely just lost it. A low-class life. And he had many children, even up into the ages of his 80s, still having children. Anyway, he named one of them Narayan, right? And then upon getting close to his death, leaving, because he was sinful, because he was wretched, because he was living a non-Brahminical life, a life full of immorality, who showed up? The Yamadutas, right? Those guys are really scary. They showed up, and they're so inconceivably fierce. I mean, the biggest tough guys in this material world, you know, they'll stand no chance in terms of keeping their cool, you know, head and seeing these guys and seeing the Yamadutas. They're just unbelievably, inconceivably fierce. Yeah, like Halloween coming up, right? Everybody, anyways, but they're just hard to imagine. So they showed up to drag a Jamil to the lower regions of existence, hellish worlds, for punishment. And actually it says that a Brahmin, because he knows what to be done, what not to be done, it says that if he commits immoral activities, he actually has to suffer more. So yeah, we those who have taken a thread, those of us who have taken a Brahmin thread, or those of us who will, or those of us, even those who just know what's right, what's wrong, it says that if we do what's wrong, we actually have to suffer more. So anyways, so he was there, and not only did the Yamadutas appear, but then also the Vishnu Dutas appeared, who are the most merciful, you know, amazing service they have. They come and they pick people up, bring them back to the spiritual world. And so they appeared, and there was a conversation there. And the Vishnu Dutas, because what happened is at the very end of his life, Jamil, he chanted it because he was so scared of this, you know, death and the Yamadutas. He said, Narayan, Narayan. So then the Vishnu Dutas arrived. So then there's a conversation between them, the Vishnu Dutas and the Yamadutas. And the Vishnu Dutas were saying that this man chanted the holy names of God, of Narayan, so you can't take him. And the Yamadutas were saying that, well, he's very wretched. He lived a terrible life, a terrible life of immorality. We have to take him. So there's this conversation. But eventually, Vishnu Dutas won the debate, and he got a second chance, a Jamil, and he perfected himself. And then he went back to the spiritual world. But that's a Jamil. I mean, it's a happy ending, but of course, the best thing is if he just didn't fall down in the first place, right? It's like, oh, that's a very happy ending, and it all worked out. But he led that whole life of suffering, and just because it worked out for Jamil doesn't mean it works out for everybody in the same positive way. Whereas Prabhupada would comment on this particular pastime often, he would say, we shouldn't think like, okay, well, Jamil, he did whatever he want, and then at the end, he chanted Narayan, right? So similarly, I could do whatever I want, and then at the end, I'll chant Narayan or I'll chant Krishna. But it is, there's many things we could learn from the pastime, but one of the things is that we should be careful not to give our minds a chance, right, to let the enemies enter. Because although it looks like a maybe not so serious thing, that could completely the whole course of our life can change. I mean, this was, who knows how long he was out in the forest. I don't know how long. I mean, he saw them embracing. Who knows if he saw 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I mean, it was in a day's time. We know that, right? It was in a 24-hour period. At least that's what it looks like. So just that, and then his whole life, right? Changed the whole course of his life. So you have to be very careful. And then, okay, so how do we be careful? Well, we need positive engagement. Without positive engagement, we have no hope. It is completely hopeless endeavor without positive engagement. We need positive engagement. And what is that positive engagement? Savai mana kṛṣṇa-padāravindayoḥ. To engage always in Krishna consciousness. That is the positive engagement. So this particular verse, this is a verse by Triveda Prabhu, do you think you could look up this verse, Savai mana kṛṣṇa-padāravindayoḥ? Because I had my Bhagavatam out there, and I had it marked, but then somebody moved the Bhagavatam. No, it's okay. No, that's not the right one. It's a different one. But I had mine marked with the particular yeah. But now I have another one that's not marked, so they brought one that wasn't marked. Anyway. No, that's not the one. There's so many ninth cantos all around. I have two that aren't the one. So this is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, chapter 4, 18 through 20. So I'll just read it. It's a verse quoted by Srila Prabhupada often, and he also quotes it in the Bhagavad Gita purport. Okay, thank you. So thank you. All right, this is the one. It says, this is the right one. Yeah. 1 out of 3. Maharaj Ambarish always engaged his mind in meditating upon the lotus feet of Krishna. His words in describing the glories of the Lord, his hands in cleansing the Lord's temple, and his ears in hearing the words spoken by Krishna or about Krishna, so Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam are the books. He engaged his eyes in seeing the deity of Krishna, Krishna's temples and Krishna's places like Mathura and Vrindavan. He engaged his sense of touch in touching the bodies of the Lord's devotees. He engaged his sense of smell in smelling the fragrance of tulsi offered to the Lord. And he engaged his tongue in tasting the Lord's prasad. He engaged his legs in walking to the holy places and temples of the Lord, his head in bowing down before the Lord, and all his desires in serving the Lord, 24 hours a day. Indeed, Maharaj Ambarish never desired anything for his own sense gratification. He engaged all his senses in devotional service and various engagements related to the Lord. This is the way to increase attachment for the Lord and be completely freed from all material desires. So this is the positive engagement. And Maharaj Ambarish Prabhupada quotes this verse about how to engage ourselves in Krishna consciousness always, 24 hours a day. So it means even when we're sleeping, right? We could be dreaming of Krishna consciousness, right? We could be dreaming so many things also, but if we fill our days with thoughts of Krishna and Krishna consciousness, we'll also dream at night. Devotees sometimes have that experience, nice experience. They have a dream of Srila Prabhupada. Like for example, recently my spiritual master, he sent something out on his email, and he said, my dear devotees, I had a dream recently with Srila Prabhupada, a vivid dream, and he said, in conclusion of that dream, I'm going to focus on my writing, more of my writing. And he said, so I'm going to be not taking as many Zoom engagements. And he said, I hope you I have faith that you understand. So we could have all types of dreams about Prabhupada, about devotees. Like Amoga Leela was telling me, he was traveling with Devavrata and Prabhu, and apparently Devavrata Prabhu, when he's sleeping, sometimes he has dreams, devotional dreams, and aside from having devotional dreams, he speaks very coherently and clearly while he's sleeping. So I think one of the dreams was he was sleeping there, and Amoga Leela went in the van, and Devavrata is clearly sleeping, and he's sleeping, and then he said something like, Amoga Leela, what do you think? Is the soul a what? What do you say? Does the body have a soul? Oh. He says, Amoga, what do you think? Does the soul have a body or the body have a soul? You know, something like that. So very clearly. In Amoga. So sometimes devotees, right? So yeah, we should engage always in Krishna consciousness, our senses. And yeah, that's the positive engagement. And it will work in the sense that we will become purified, and purified means we'll become more and more free of material desires. Srila Prabhupada, of course, so many services, all the different ways of engaging our senses help us become free of material desires. But also deity worship's there. It says if one engages in deity worship, it's a way to get free of material desires. Srila Prabhupada wrote a letter to a disciple, and he said that if you engage in deity worship, our old enemy, Mr. Lust, will not cause so much trouble. Right? Deity worship. So seeing the beautiful deities. Also, it says in the Bhagavatam, the 4th canto, Prabhupada mentions in a purport, he says that those who are preaching the messages of Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, they become, this is a very easy way to get free from the clutches of the illusory energy. Those who are preaching. So we don't have to be free to preach the message of Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam. But if we try to spread the message of the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada says this is a very easy way to get out of the clutches of the illusory energy. So that's there too. So there's so many examples of, like this example of Ambarish Maharaj. Although he's from an external point of view, Maharaj, a king, a grihastha, householder. And there's this big yogi, Durvasa Muni, right? We had this example the last few days that was brought up about Sabara Muni, right? This great Muni. He was trying to control his senses, but he couldn't, right? Who is it? Menaka came by. Oh, who is it then? Fish. Oh, okay, Sabramuni, yeah, the fish, right? He was meditating, and then the fish came and started copulating, and then he became agitated, and he ran out of the river, and then he married. First of all, he was very, because he spent a lot of time in the water, he became all wrinkled, and so he was there for like a long time. So he came out and he tried to get married, and you could imagine all the women kind of freaked out seeing him, ugly. But through his mystic power, he made himself very young, handsome, and he married 100, right, princesses, and many, many years, and then eventually went back to his yogic practice. But the reason he fell, it's described in the Bhagavatam, is because he made offenses to Garuda. Because he was telling Garuda, because Garuda, his diet, right, fish, that's his Garuda. Great Vaishnav. But so while he was going to a particular place, and Sabramuni meditating with his friends, fish community there, saw Garuda doing this, and then he became mad at Garuda. And he said, if you come here, he said, I curse you to die. So there's an offense towards Garuda. It says, from that offense, his power to be a yogi diminished to the degree where he saw fish copulating. And then he became full of lust, and then he went out. He fell because of that. So whether it's Sabramuni or you have Durvasa Muni in the Srimad Bhagavatam with Ambarish Maharaj losing his temper and cursing Ambarish Maharaj for such a small thing, he broke the fast, right? The Kadashi fast. Before he served Durvasa Muni, it's a whole pastime there. But he drank water. It's like, and then Durvasa Muni became really upset, and he grabbed a part of his hair, threw it down, and there's a big she-demon came out and was going to kill Ambarish Maharaj. And then Lord Vishnu sent his chakra there. No one could get free from the wrath of Lord Vishnu's chakra, so the chakra was there spinning, about to annihilated that she-demon. And then it started going after Durvasa Muni. And what did Durvasa Muni do? When the she-demon was about to kill Ambarish Maharaj, he just folded his hands and okay, if that's Krishna's will, then okay. But the chakra came and killed. But then when the chakra was, Durvasa Muni, the chakra was there about to kill Durvasa Muni, what did Durvasa Muni do? He ran in fear. Although he's a great yogi. And he was running all over the universe. Eventually he ran into Vaikuntha, right? He's a qualified person. You have to be pretty qualified to go to Vaikuntha. But he was there, and he spoke to Lord Vishnu. And Lord Vishnu said, I don't have the power to stop this. You have to go and ask Maharaj Ambarish for forgiveness. And then Lord Vishnu, he said some very beautiful verses, quoted in the Srimad Bhagavatam, describing the nature of the relationship between him and his devotees. He says, I am in the heart of my devotees, and the devotees are in my heart. They don't know anyone besides me, and I don't know anyone besides them. And he also says that my devotees are very dear to me, but not only are my devotees dear to me, but those who are devotees of my devotees are very dear to me. So give some hope, right, for... So eventually Durvasa Muni came back down, and he begged forgiveness from Ambarish Maharaj. And Ambarish Maharaj said, I didn't take any offense in the first place. No problem. And as far as I remember, Ambarish Maharaj, after that, he served Durvasa Muni his lunch. So... because that was the start of the pastime. We could look it up to confirm it, but so yeah. In conclusion, we should try to understand the nature of this material world and the material mind, and how we could get in trouble, and then we should positively engage ourselves through positive engagement of the activities of Krishna consciousness. Because we're a positive movement. The Hare Krishna movement is a positive movement means that it's not a movement of, okay, well, it's not that, okay, no, 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 and you know, lust, anger, greed, no, no, no. Okay, yes, we are saying no to those things, but you can't just say no to them. It's not going to work. You have to say yes, or we can't say no to them. It's not going to work. Like, absolutely not going to work. We have to say yes to the positive engagements of Krishna consciousness. Then it will work. Without saying yes to the devotional service, it's just not going to work. It's just, I mean, simple as that. Okay, so does anybody have any?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, you could go for it. Go ask.
Balaram Prabhu, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The quote from the translation is, quote, "What learned man would put faith in the mind?" End quote. So my question is, who is this learned man? What are his symptoms?
Okay. Well, the point as far as I could see, of course, we have other comments about this, but what learned man would put faith in the mind means that if a man is learned, then they don't put faith in their mind. Because just like there was one Christian saint, and people would glorify him, that you're so great, you're so advanced, you're so learned, you're so humble, on and on and on. They'd glorify him. And generally that's what people do. People are looking for role models, people are looking for people to follow, right? Leaders to follow. And if they find somebody who is followable, I know, not fallible, but followable, I don't know if that's a word, probably not right. Worthy of following, I'm just joking. Then they follow and they praise and somebody, right? That's just the nature of the world. So, anyways, this man was getting a lot of praise. Pretty much how he was free from illusion and so on. And he was making the point that okay, by the mercy of God, right, by the mercy of Jesus Christ, I've made some progress. But I do not feel that until the last moment, right, until I'm leaving this world, I can't say that I am absolutely safe or free. I'm not free yet. In other words, even up until the last moment, there could be some falling into illusion, right? I mean, there's been many persons who have went on a really great course. I mean, I'm thinking of one Catholic monk. I mean, people were super impressed by his learning, by so many things, by his devotion. I mean, a famous person. And for years, years, he was going. And then practically what happened is somehow or other he became attached to some woman, in a non-devotional way. He became attached. And he was a monk. And then he kind of, he was sick and she was taken care of. Then somehow or other his mind kind of. So it means that what learned man would put faith in the mind means that, as it's being mentioned here, Shukadeva Goswami is saying that we have to be vigilant with the mind, with the senses, and not think out of pride or falsity, okay, I'm free, right? We should always, like Srila Prabhupada would say, right, when he was praying to the deities, devotees asked him, well, Srila Prabhupada, what are you praying? I'm praying to Srimati Radharani that I don't fall down, I don't fall into illusion. So, and devotee said, oh, Prabhupada, I thought you could never fall down. He said, well, that's because I'm always praying. I'm always praying that I won't. So practically it's saying that what learned man would put faith in the mind means a learned man does not put faith in the mind. But there's a definition anyway. So I don't know if somebody else has some comments in relation to that. I hope that satisfies.
Yeah, it's very satisfying. Thank you very much,
Okay.
Prabhu.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, Daniel. Bhakti Daniel.
Thank you, Balarama Prabhu, for a great class. My question is more on the concern of like the term blooping, just like falling down, you're explaining. But it's understanding how do we...
You know where that term came from? Anyways, I'll tell you in a second.
Okay. But the my main question is fear is a really big emotion that a lot of people experience through this life, and it kind of what keeps them entangled. And we can, like you said, at the very end of our life, we can even like bloop again. But sometimes we can like fear that, oh, I don't want to fall. And so how do we kind of make it a positive way that, we won't be able to fall, or not anticipating that we might fall, but instead of like turning that fear into something like greater?
Well, I mean, there's material fear, right? And then there's, you could say there's fear in material consciousness, and then there's fear in Krishna consciousness. So all the emotions practically have their standing in Krishna consciousness. So we could fear in Krishna consciousness, it's okay, actually. So to fear that we're going to fall in Maya, that's okay. That's necessary. But it shouldn't be a fear where we become paralyzed. Oh, I'm in fear that I'm going to fall in Maya, so let me stay in the four corners of my room and just under my blanket or something. It's like, huh? Then you're in Maya. Yeah. Maya's, yeah, so we have to be fearful of Maya, but on the same note, we also are supposed to be like soldiers in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's army, right? Fighting to spread Krishna consciousness, to be Krishna conscious, to maintain, to expand, right? The Hare Krishna movement. So it doesn't mean that when we become fearful of Maya that we're like weak, or that we're kind of timid and like wimps or something. But we're still fighting, but we're just understanding that we need to be cautious, because in war there's a whole strategy, right? Strategic planning, and right when you're going in, there's a whole, yeah. Now in terms of that blooping, Brahmananda, Prabhupada's disciple and another devotee, in the early days in New York, when somebody would leave, they termed this, they got this term bloop, right? Oh, he blooped. And then they brought it up to Srila Prabhupada. First of all, bloop, it means that, for example, the idea was that, okay, you go out to a pond or you go out to the ocean and you throw a stone, it makes that bloop, that sound. So Brahmananda and another devotee said that, oh, Prabhupada asked, what happened to this person? And then Brahmananda said, oh, he blooped, Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, oh, what is this bloop? And then they explained. Prabhupada said, okay, that's good, good term. That's in the Swamiji, that book by Stephen Rosen. Yeah. So, yeah. But as Lord Jesus Christ said, right, we're supposed to be fishers of men. So fishing them out of the material existence, going to fish them out, back out. But yes, Sriveda Prabhu.
So, since this is all about the mind, we've been reading about, right?
Yes.
So there's a song, Bhajahure Mana Shri Nandanandana. He's instructing his mind. This is Loshan Das, I think, wrote this. And he's instructing his mind to worship the fearless lotus feet of Nandanandana, of Krishna. Fearless meaning that which gives fearlessness. And there's also a whole poem, there's more than 8 verses by Raghunath Das Goswami called Manaḥ Shiksha, Instructions to the Mind. So the idea is that we're not the mind, we're the soul. So you with your purified intelligence have to instruct the mind what to do. And in this way, especially that song, to overcome fearfulness, you have to instruct it to take shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. And how to do it? Ambarish is showing the 9 processes of devotional service. We have so many instructions. So that's the answer to the other question: who's the learned person?
Yeah.
The learned person is the one who is always praying and who is always instructing his mind, directing his mind in all these ways to absorb it in Krishna, and then you find that you're beyond fear. As Ambarish showed, he didn't flinch when he was going to get burned up by this Kritya, which is a female demon created by,
Yeah.
Whereas Durvasa didn't have that. All his yogic powers, he was scared like anything.
Yeah. Yeah, the 9 processes of devotional service, Prahlad Maharaj, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, in the 7th canto, says that a learned person, they engage in these 9 activities of devotional service. So, yeah, the essence of education. Can you share with us, to end, that from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Ramani Janasanga? That's nice.
So this is a song, a verse from the song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur called, what is it? Goldruma Bhajanopadesh, Gautama Chanda Bhajanopadesh, to instructing us to worship the moon of Gaudrumadvip, which is Lord Chaitanya. So one of them is very good, Brahmachari especially. Ramani Janasanga Sukham Chasake Chadame Bhayadam Purushata Haram Harinam Sadara Samatta Mati Bhaja Golda Makana Nakunja Vidhum. So I didn't make a poem of this one, I should though. So he's instructing us, oh friends, Ramani Janasanga, the association with young girls, Ramani Janasanga Sukham, the happiness that comes from that, in the end, Chadame, and in the end, produces great fear and steals away the goal of life. So what's the alternative? Harinam Sadara Samatta Matir. Make your mind intoxicated by the mellows of Harinam Sankirtan, and in this way worship the Lord Chaitanya, the moon of Gaudrumadvip. It's one of 20 verses of instruction like that. So this one.
I have one about instructing the tongue.
Go ahead.
Jive Sadaiva Bhajasundarani Krishnasya Namani Manoharani Samasta Bhaktarta Vanashanani Govinda Damo Danamadaveti. So right, saying Jive Sadaiva Bhajasundarani, say, my dear tongue, please constantly worship Bhajasundarani, these beautiful names, Bhajasundarani, Krishna's, for example, Krishnasya Namani Manoharani. So these beautiful names of Krishna, they still the mind. Krishnasya Namani Manoharani, Samasta Bhaktarti Vanashanani, and they destroy all the miseries of the devotees. Govinda, and examples of these names are Govinda, Damodar, Madhava, right? Govinda, Damodar, Madhava. So he's instructing his tongue.
We have 1 minute left till 1:15, which is when we have to end the class. So I'll just end with this. Forget the Sanskrit. This is by Raghunath Das Goswami. He says, an excellent fresh nectar drink with endless subtle taste. Such is the name of Radha, by whom all 3 worlds are graced. Condensed milk that is wonderfully delicious, thick and sweet. Such is the name of Krishna, in whom all attractions meet. Now mix these drinks, O thirsty tongue, and add the cooling, fragrant spice of love, a prize the wise will try to buy at any price. And then at every moment, drink this beverage most fine, and make my heart supremely blissful, peaceful, and divine.
Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.